Good to have you, and thank you so much for your time this morning. Let's talk about spending habits this year and perhaps even compare them to last year. How are South African consumers spending their money?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. We've seen a very interesting shift in people in South Africa generally going online post-COVID. And while the malls are still very busy, they're not as busy as they could have been. We have many more consumers coming of age. And this year, or this festive season particularly, I'm expecting, or South Africa is expecting to see around a 20% uptake in total volume, in total sales, goods sold. And people are generally slightly more savvy when they shop and spend today. I think COVID changed quite a lot. But yes, there's definitely a rush, and the consumer goods market is going absolutely wild.
With that being said, are we seeing more spending even on luxury items? Because I remember last year when COVID hit, we've been inundated with images on social media of long queues outside some of our luxury stores, you know, inside malls. But how's that spending when it comes to luxury, would you say, this year?
So luxury goods, I find never really goes down. If it's in a recession, even a pandemic, there's some really interesting some numbers floating around. I heard that Mercedes-Benz have never sold more cars in their life than in November last year. Some of the luxury clothing brand stores in the V&A and Sandton are outperforming their London and New York counterparts. So I do think the luxury sector is a unique dichotomy in these times. But what I'm interested in, and I think what the South African market is really interested in, is watching how our digital economy is growing and mushrooming in front of our eyes. We have millions and millions of South Africans who have now, you know, they've drank the Kool-Aid, they've tasted what it's like to shop online from your couch, doesn't matter where you're from, and really benefit from the power of the thumb.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I mean, I know personally, before COVID, you know, ordering online food for me was a luxury than driving, but now it's more of a necessity than driving. It's the first thing that comes to mind. So how would you say online, you know, shopping has gone, especially when it comes to even some of the scams that we see? Are South Africans still trusting and trustful of these online platforms?
Well, that's a great question, but to start, the trust was always an issue. There's also lots of limitations for South Africans in general: high data costs, accessibility for last mile deliveries, inclusive payment options. That's always been an issue in the South African space. The on-demand category or sector only really served 8 to 10% of the population. That is now opened up completely to almost anybody with a smartphone or a relatively low-end smartphone. And what that's done is people have been forced. And when large retailers like Checkers launch 60/60 or similar services, people now say, oh, well, I know them, I trust them, let me give it a try. And they figure it out. And once they figure it out, they do it again and again. And then it becomes a weekly event. And then you start shopping with other partners and so on and so forth. But inadvertently, there will always be that scam site that catches you with a very clever Facebook or Instagram ad with a crazy offer. And yes, there are still scams out there, but there are ways to spot them.
Right. Just before I let you go, then, I have to talk about banks, you know, as a form of, you know, safekeeping your money. How have they innovated, would you say, the past 2 years, the past couple of months, especially because people now don't carry cash, they make payments online. You know, we do have our digital, you know, platforms as well. Have you seen more of a shift from banks, or has it always been there? We just haven't noticed as consumers.
I think the innovation is all around us, and different consumer segments see different stages of innovation. And some of the banks are doing some really cool things within their own spheres. But I think as a whole, the fintech sector has really come out, guns blazing, boxing above its weight, and been really producing some stellar businesses. And at the end of the day, it's when it comes to the digital payments world in South Africa, it's about inclusivity. The internet or the online enabled card market, you know, once again, it only serves, you know, sub 10% of the entire market. So there's some ridiculously cool businesses coming out of the sub-Saharan African space that are serving customers and hoping to build the future of open banking, which is ubiquity for business customers and merchants.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, Nick, and also giving us these insight. Ozow Commercial Director Nick French, thank you so much for joining us right here on the South African Morning.